Oh, you guys, I got this author, and I have already connected energetically, happily, joyfully. And his book uh, came across my desk, like they do. And I was caught by the title. And then I got the book and I opened it up, and I have done a ton of notes and things, because this is a really wonderful book, and I'll tell a story about it in a minute. But the book is called "You Are Enough." No, enough as you are. That was my dyslexia, everybody.
That's
I
great.
am enough as you are by Scott Stabile, or Stabile.
Stabile.
Stabile. So, Scott, welcome to Empowering Chats. Thanks for being here.
Oh, Susan, thank you so much. I'm really happy to meet you.
I'm happy to be here with you. So, enough as you are, the title. Let's where did that come from, out of your experience, or out of your psyche, your intuitive? Where did it come
Sure.
from?
For a long time in the work that I do, whether it's in writing or speaking, I'll often end the pieces with, remember you are worthy, you are beautiful, you are enough just as you are. And I've really come to believe in the power of self-love as one of, I see love just as a little, I mean, maybe I should step back a second. I see love as the most powerful force we have to work with and play with in this reality. And when I speak about love, I'm really speaking about it as an umbrella term that encompasses kindness and forgiveness and empathy and compassion and all the things that we're all longing to give and receive. So I've been making noise, a lot of noise, for the power of love for many years, because I see it as the one energy that can actually create healing in our world, right? I know I'm
Yep.
preaching to the choir with you, Susan, but
Well, you just landed in the exact right place to have this conversation, because that is my experience and my belief, and the power of love is a frequency. So therefore, everyone has access to it. It's a not, I mean, it can be touchy and feely, but it's a frequency that reverberates around each and every individual and within each and every individual. And I love that you're advocating and talking about it, because I think up until lately, with all the transformative work that happened in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, up until now,
Mhm.
kind of thing, it was, oh, you feel broken, you're acting broken, you must fix yourself, let me tell you how you fix yourself.
Right.
But that's not that. We have transitioned in the last year or two into, we are already fixed.
Yeah,
So enough as you
absolutely.
are is such a brilliant, brilliant statement.
Yeah, because that's for me, the invitation of love is always that you are enough, that you are beautiful, that you are worthy. There are never any conditions. Even the idea of unconditional love is redundant, because the moment in my, everything I'm
I
saying is
agree.
my understanding of things and how I experience the world. Like the moment you attach conditions to love, it's no longer love. It becomes something else. It becomes something of the mind. And what I know, what I've come to see is not only is the power of love what can ultimately create healing and what we need to create healing, because there are a lot of change agents. It's like anger is an extraordinarily powerful change agent, but anger on its own is not going to create healing. You have to support it with love if you want to find healing from whatever it is you're experiencing, in my belief. And the longer I've been on this path and the more writing I've done and speaking, I've really come to discover that my path is really rooted in self-love,
Mm-hmm.
because one, because love doesn't really, it's never just about self. Love is always transcendent. It's so expansive, it's so abundant, that any energy you're giving to love of self is energy that's serving the people around you and the planet on the whole. You can trust that. And then also knowing that I am in relationship with myself 24/7 for the extent of my life, as is everyone else. And if we do not prioritize that relationship, it forms the foundation from which we experience everyone and everything throughout our lifetime. So the more we come into wholeness and alignment and love with ourselves, the more we are naturally going to be offering that to the world around us.
I am in complete agreement with you, Scott. And the so so were you born just loving yourself, Scott? Did you come in this life going, "Woo, I love myself"?
Well, I should say yes. I think we're probably all born loving ourselves, and that gets conditioned out of us very quickly as a young,
Rapidly,
and so we grow away from the essence of who we are, of course. We get buried by societal conditionings, by parental conditioning, by religious conditioning, by governmental conditioning, all of it. And I would say that I got back into understanding the power of love in my early 20s. Like I really started it mirrored getting involved with a cult, which is a very long story, but I will say I was in a cult for a bit, and at the time the message of that cult was one of love, and that
Mhm.
really awakened me to this idea that love can be the priority in my life, because I had just moved to San Francisco outside of college, was considering becoming an attorney, got a job at a law firm, was somewhat career focused but not really in my heart. And then I was meeting all these people who were talking about peace and love as their major mission. I was living in San Francisco in the Haight-Ashbury district, of course.
Of course.
And but it really did awaken me to something that felt really true inside, which is like, this I can vibe with, making love the priority, and that trusting by doing so, where I will be led through that connection, is how I'm going to let my path unfold. Right? Like if I can be led by my heart
Oh, I
and by
love it.
my
Yeah.
commitment to love, then the things that unfold before me are likely to support that commitment and to support my life. And of course, I mean, I'm 52 now. This was in my 20s, so it's been a whole world of growing and learning and falling away from things and back into them over these years. But I have stayed firmly rooted in my understanding that love is our greatest healer. Whether or
Mm-hmm.
not I was still deeply connected to my path in that way, you know,
Oh, my dogs are barking.
yeah.
Uh, so, I totally relate to that, Scott, about the coming in and falling out of, and, because I just want everybody to know it, it is a journey. And we talk about this on the show a lot of self-growth, evolution, and things like that. And so it's ongoing. It's not like that all of a sudden, like you said, oh, love is my priority. And now you get to sit back and go, I love myself.
Yeah.
Right.
But
It's an active work.
it's absolutely active. And Susan, what I've really come to internalize more than ever in these past years is that no matter where you are on that trajectory, or if you're even on that trajectory, if you're on a conscious healing path or not, you are enough as you are. And that's really the essence of what I'm trying to convey in this book for anyone who picks it up, is that we are really conditioned to believe that our worth is predicated on accomplishment or our looks or
Yeah.
how handsome our partner is or how smart our children are, all these things that are really wonderful if they add meaning to your life, and they have zero to do with your worth. And when you can really come to understand that your worth is inherent, you are born worthy and you will die worthy, it completely transforms how we show up in our lives. It shifts us from like, I mean, people listening can't really see me, but I feel like when I'm connecting to my worth, I am expansive. I am like, my arms are out, my chest is forward in this grounded, rooted way of like, I am enough. And what that invites into my life are relationships and circumstances that respond to that energy. And conversely, when we fall prey to the lie that we are unworthy unless, or that we are not enough, and we, how I am now, I'm like slunched
Yeah.
over,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and closed off. And when you move through the world energetically that way, how the world responds to you is entirely different. And the more awareness we bring to how we show up in the world and how the world responds in kind, the more empowered I believe we are to prioritize the relationship we have with ourselves, to
And I
deepen it,
love
to
that.
strengthen it, you
I
know?
love that you say prioritize the relationship we have with ourselves. It's interesting, I have clients and some of them will say, "Oh, I had a really good day." Well, how were you feeling? "Oh, I was feeling really happy." And and I give people mantras, and my one client is, "I love and respect myself. I love," and she goes out in the world and suddenly she's having a happy day and people are being nice to her. And then, another day she's grumpy and me, and nothing's going her way. And I'm like, okay, go back to love. Just go back to love, go back to love. That's all there is love. So, yeah.
Yeah, and the gift of that for me has been that, this world is can be wildly difficult, as we know, and
Mm,
being a human in this lifetime can be wildly difficult. And the great gift of self-love and getting in good relationship with yourself is knowing that no matter how you're able to show up for the world around you, even if you're taken into a place of deep hopelessness because you're seeing so much violence and instability, or powerlessness, or whatever it is, when you have strengthened the relationship you have with yourself, my experiences of that is that no matter what I'm feeling, even if what I'm feeling is really down, or even if I'm listening to the voice of my mind that is self-abusive yet again, there is a part of me that is so practiced at showing up with compassion and grace that it's always there. And the gift of that always being there, the gift of always having a voice that is there to remind me, hey, honey, you're human. This too is okay. And this too is okay. And you're beautiful. Even if you failed, you're beautiful and you're loved. And failed, quote unquote, because what does
right,
that
right,
mean,
right,
of
right,
course?
right. Really.
It's like that voice is so practiced within me that it allows me to show up in my life more courageously, because I know that even if I take risks that don't work out how I would want to, that on the other side of that risk, I am there for myself as my best friend, to remind myself that, hey, no worries, baby, you're beautiful, I love you, I've got you. And I can't think of a greater gift than knowing I've got myself, and what that has done for my life, and knowing that that is the potential within each of us. By saying this, I'm nobody special. Like you, Susan, I believe I see love as an energy, which means it is an energy that is alive within us and outside of us always. And so for
Always.
me, the practice of being with love is just deciding, I'm going to play with this energy right now. I am going to ask myself, what is this energy inviting me to do? How is it asking me to show up for myself and for others? And when we ask ourselves that question, and when we really answer it, the invitation is always going to be something that is pure and positive, because that is the nature of love. And it's
Yes.
always going to be of service, because that is the nature of love. It's not always going to be easy, because sometimes it's much easier to go to like this, screw you, man. Like when someone's showing up in this antagonistic,
Yeah.
disrespectful way, the last choice sometimes our mind wants us to make is a loving one. And
Right.
yet it's available to us.
So I want to read everybody, because this taps on what you just said, Scott.
Okay,
Something out of
great.
Scott's book. Um, so you say, love reminds me. Love reminds me I have nothing to be ashamed of, and therefore don't need to numb myself out of shame. I like that. Love encourages me to find forgiveness so that I don't have to escape my anger and blame. I'm relating to all this. I don't know if
Yeah.
anybody else is, but I am.
I am
Uh,
too.
Love pushes me to seek connection so that I am no longer compelled to be destructive in my loneliness. Love insists that I am worthy just as I am, and that I am strong enough to accept and love myself without needing to mask my truth. Every single time I choose love, I'm choosing my health and well-being. And the more I choose love, the more likely I am to create for myself the kind of life I won't need to escape from.
That's
And
beautiful.
that was the
No.
first thing that was the first one I opened to. I got more. but that is just like nail on the head, or head on the nail, hammer on the head,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
Because I don't know that we've not, as a culture and as probably humanity, been taught to see that we're enough, and so there's all these different ways of escapism that we've grown into think is natural, and the next generation will have another set of escapisms
Mhm.
if we don't really start teaching how to love ourselves first, and like you say, prioritize ourselves in that love. I think you got it going, Scott. You got it going.
Thank you. And also, honestly, Susan, to remember for me, what's been really helpful for me is also understanding, even when I'm not able to show up for myself in what I would see as the healthiest way, I'm no less worthy of love. I'm no less worthy in general. Because I think that, especially those of us who are on a conscious spiritual path, a conscious loving path, sometimes what ends up happening is we can shame and judge ourselves against a more evolved version of ourselves that we'd like to be, instead
Oh
of
yeah.
bringing to who we are this understanding that, hey, this is who you are right now. This is what you're choosing to do. Maybe right now you're choosing to escape because everything feels overwhelming. That too is human, and that too is okay. Like, can we not love ourselves still, even when we're not showing up how we ideally would like to be? For me,
So
love is
here,
it's always supporting everything.
I yes. So, and your book is like supporting everything about love. So I opened up to another place, and it's
Okay.
just what you just said. Try loving that part of yourself that is unable to love all the parts of yourself.
Yes.
Okay, I got chills. I got chills. That was like, oh yeah, you can just start with one simple piece. You don't have to go in when you're doing the whatever, acting out or whatever.
Right.
You don't have to then try and accept all those pieces. Just find that one piece you can love right now. Yes.
Right, because that's part of it. Like, we all want to look in the mirror and accept everything about ourselves, right? But the reality is, there are aspects that may never accept everything about ourselves, and true acceptance allows for those places within us as well. Like, I'm not interested in going to war with any aspect of who I am, not even my self-abusive mind that tries to convince me I'm lazy and unworthy and stupid. Even that part, I don't internalize those messages the way I used to, because I do practice at self-love. At the same time, I'm not here to go to war with my mind when I'm not agreeing with it, because all war does ultimately is create more war. And any
Yes.
part of who we are, even the parts that are hard to look at, like, I can be wildly envious, I can be wildly jealous. Like, these are aspects of my personality. And even those parts, my practice now is, you two are welcome here. You're challenging, but you two are welcome here, because what I found myself doing, Susan, so often was trying to stifle these parts of
Yes.
myself and lock them in the dungeon, and they were just pounding on the walls to get out. And the more I welcome them in, and also recognize that they are aspects of an insecure and fear-based mind, and they don't reflect the love in my heart, but they are welcome because they are part of me, it diffuses the noise that they make. That has been my experience with it. So that's
But
what
so
I'm playing with in my life. Everything that's about you, I'm about, you are welcome. I'm not going to war.
I love that, you guys. That's a really great. And it's so funny you mentioned the word welcome, because about a week ago or more, I started welcoming aspects of myself, and or welcoming my life, welcoming the fabulousness of because my life's pretty fabulous, but welcoming it instead of feeling guilty and ashamed about it. I welcome my life, the truth of my being. But can we do like a little sidebar, Scott?
Anything.
Because what you just said about war creates more war within our minds. Well, and then look what the state of affairs are, right? And war is creating more war, is creating more war
Right.
until it stops, whatever that means, whatever it looks like. So one of the things I've been advocating is, because in welcoming all the parts of yourself into the circle, I see things in circles, but into the circle, then each of those aspects gets to be seen and heard in a way that is respectful. That's what it sounded like you were just saying.
Right. So because ultimately, I'll use envy as an example. I've had the experience before when I'm getting envious. I remember talking to a friend of mine years ago, a dear friend, got a big promotion at work, was making a lot more money. Da, da, da. I was extremely happy for him the moment he told me, and then within 15 seconds, I could feel myself going into this envy. Like, look at him, he's doing great, like comparison in that story. And what I was trying to do at that time was pretending, oh, I'm not really envious. This is what I'm saying to myself. This is all inner
Right.
dialogue. This isn't really going on. This isn't really going on. But by trying to stifle something that is real, you can't deny what's real. Everything here is energy. When your body's feeling it, no matter what you're telling yourself, you know what you're feeling in your body. And so the practice I have now is when I'm feeling that envy come up, internally, I'm just saying, this is envy. This is every human being on the planet with a human mind has envy at some point. It's totally natural. It's totally okay. And and what that does for me is just to allow the envy to show up without feeling like the envy in that moment is owning me, because I'm allowing it in. I'm acknowledging this is a product of my mind, and yet it's a part of myself because my mind is a part of who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm always, well, I won't say always, but when I remember, often asking myself, how is love inviting me to show up in this moment? And what is this envy inviting me to look at about my life? What is it about this person that I am really envying? And are there ways in which I could bring more of that into my life in a way that might create more fulfillment or more meaning? So instead of turning envy into just this ugly monster, I could also see it as a beacon, as showing me something that is out there that I want to cultivate in my life in a bigger way.
Oh, yes. And so and that's really great that you said that, because that is how we notice that we want to grow more, right? When you
Absolutely. And
said
I don't want to
cultivate it.
mislead. Oh, sorry, please go
No,
ahead.
but you said cultivate, and we if we focus, if we are aware enough to get that what that person has, I want to take, that's not the way to do it. That the cultivating and growing towards whatever it is that you want, that the envy triggered, is much healthier, much healthier.
Absolutely. And for me, again, that starts with so much of what we're talking about starts with awareness, just simply bringing awareness to the moment, to how you're feeling in the moment, to how what you're feeling correlates to what you're thinking about, to getting honest with yourself. Am I reacting from a place of conditioning or authenticity? If the answer is conditioning, how can I steer myself more toward authentic responses to the experience in front of me, right? How can I start? I've said this often, if in my workshops, it's like if you take one thing, if I could say one thing to people, it would essentially be pay attention to the choices you're making in your life. And as often as possible, when those choices are feeling good, do more of them. And if the choices are feeling depleting or toxic, eliminate them. And if we did no other thing in our lives but that, we would change our lives overnight.
Yeah, yeah. And I love that, because you say it in the beginning of the book, uh, about living in your truth versus the conditioning of the world. And it caught me because so thank you, Scott, because this morning in my journaling practice, I was claiming I'm going to stand in my truth.
Uh-huh.
But when I read Living in Your Truth, I was like, oh, that just feels so much better. It's just softer and more connected and flowing, as opposed to I'm going to make a stand in my truth. Well, what the hell? You know?
And even that living in it, standing in it, being with it is all a process, because
Mm-hmm.
what I've come to discover, the more honest I get with myself, is like I'm not even always aware of what's true for me. Our conditioning runs so deeply within us at times that unless you're really really committed to an honest relationship with yourself, sometimes we kid ourselves about what's real and what's most true for us. But when we start on this path, and when we commit ourselves to this path, and we start asking ourselves questions, well, wait a minute, I'm saying this right now, but in my body, I'm not really feeling totally aligned. What's going on here? Maybe what I'm saying isn't actually articulating what feels most true for me. And
Yeah.
where is there room to play with that? You know, and I know you, and I suspect I can speak for you in this way. I'm certainly a person, I love this kind of play. Like for me, the path of awakening, the path of healing, of personal development, of self-love is endlessly fascinating.
It
It's
is
also
fascinating.
right, like I'm endlessly curious about what is going on within me, and because I know that that curiosity is leading me to places that do feel more authentic and do
Yeah.
feel more in alignment with who I am, and the gifts that come from that heart alignment, that alignment with source, they're endless.
Yeah. And Scott, it feels well, the timing of all of this, right, is it's necessary that I feel like I meet more people that are wanting to live more honestly with themselves, right? Living their truth and less hiding from. And when I meet these people, well, I was just with a group of college friends, and it was interesting to see the ones that just wanted to keep hiding. And I just did a little gentle, how about, can you see this? Do you see? And everybody else could see, the person being this beautiful light, and
Yeah.
all this stuff. But the one person that was still hiding,
Yeah.
but hiding from herself, not
Sure.
not us, because we can see it, it's clear. So
Yeah.
that uh, prioritizing yourself first. Oh my God, I can't even tell you how many women, because I work with women mostly, and
Yeah.
how many women just feel so unworthy and not enough and not empowered, and and I was one of them. But now when I witness these people that are, it's another way of harming yourself by not loving
Absolutely.
and respecting yourself. It just is
Absolutely.
harmful.
And women are conditioned in a very different way than men. And one of the
Yeah.
conditionings women get is put everyone else ahead of you.
Hmm.
Take care of everyone else and smile your way through it. And it's such BS. And yet we internalize the conditioning that we get still.
Yeah, well, there hasn't been enough models yet uh, of how you live that life, at least as a woman with a family and children.
Absolutely.
And there isn't enough in my mind that like the soccer moms. How do they have time to take care of themselves? But like you said earlier, prioritizing your life so that you and the love you give yourself comes first is how we can all get through our day.
Well, and then also understanding that how that looks for each individual will be wholly different. It's like
Yes.
100 people prioritizing self-love are going to show up in their lives very differently based on what their personalities are drawn to, what, you know what I mean? So it's like
Yes.
understanding that that is the great gift of really getting in deeper relationship with yourself. It's going to foster an authenticity that can only be brought about by love. And what I really feel called to say right now is that it doesn't matter what your relationship with yourself has been like until this point, because it is always what we do from this moment on that matters the most, which is to say, it is never too late to get in a more harmonious, loving relationship with yourself. Never, ever. It's never too late to create change in our lives, in ourselves. So,
Absolutely.
and it's never too late. It's hard to shift patterns, but it's certainly not impossible. And again, the first thing that starts is bringing awareness. Wait a minute, I've been living in this pattern for the last 10 or 20 or 30 years, and it is absolutely not serving me.
Or the
So,
world.
Or the
It doesn't
world,
serve the world,
exactly. Hallelujah. Or the world.
you
So
know.
what can I do that might serve me in a more meaningful way?
Well,
And
in a way that is not egotistical, because you're not talking. I don't get any whiff of ego, anything off of you, Scott. And usually when I talk to people that have that, I'm like, I'm just going to go over here and you can.
yeah,
So, because what you're talking about is really truth, and there's lots of people that would want to manipulate the wording or the what do I want to say, in calling people to learn how to love themselves first and prioritize that. There are people in the world that are not necessarily asking you to do that for your benefit, and in order to make sure that you are serving, because like you said
I
earlier,
was in a
love.
cult. I told you. I know
Well,
that
love is a
lifestyle. Yeah,
servant. It is a servant.
yeah.
We serve, I serve, I talk about, I serve love. I serve love. And then all the radiances of love, that's what I serve. And I serve it with intention to clear the hate, the shame, the all the stuff that's going on in the world right now. And if our leaders, world leaders, could finally get to a point of recognizing that their actions are coming out of not loving themselves, having a priority that is not about love and wholeness and well-being and worthiness, but it's out of that old modality of, I'm going to take action so I can have more. And
Sure.
that's stuffing the hole that exists within these individuals, because they haven't investigated, how can I love myself? They just
Yeah, but
haven't.
it's look, we can't wait for the leaders, honestly,
Nope.
because that's never going to happen until more and more of us are
That's
so
right.
deeply rooted in the energy of love and the power of love that it is demanded by our energy. But and even demanded's a harsh word. It would be the only natural response to an overwhelming population of people who are no longer willing to accept actions and words that aren't aligned with love,
That's
right?
it.
It's on each of us, honestly. If what this is for me, the other question I ask myself a lot is like, who do I want to be within the face of the world that I'm seeing? Whether I view this world as flourishing or imploding, how do I want to stand within it? And for me, that answer is always to stand in love, to live in love, to be in love. And that's all I have control over. That we only
Yes.
have control over how we're choosing to show up. And
Yes.
I appreciate the work you're doing with this podcast and in your work, because we need people who are making noise for the power of love and sending out that invitation again and again and again, I believe.
I in 100% agreement. It's what I have been called to activate light leaders.
Yeah.
What the hell? And that's exactly, and it's because of the power of love, like you're talking about. The people, when I work with individuals, not even work with them, walk by them
Mhm.
and say something kind and loving, their heart just opens, and giving a kindness in terms of a compliment, especially to women, because women complimenting women is can be sometimes a catty thing. This is the whole women thing, but a woman to woman, and looking someone in the eyes and say, oh my goodness, you're beautiful today.
Yeah.
What you and it's not about what they're wearing, it's looking in their eyes and seeing the truth of their being. It just melts their armor.
Yeah, absolutely. And for anyone listening to this, and I know this is, again, this is because of conditioning that happens for women, there can be a resistance to talk about self-love because the selfishness alarm goes off. And the
Mm.
last thing people want to be, especially women, I feel, is to be seen as selfish. And what I really want to make clear about self-love is that It is the most beautiful selfishness that exists on this planet because the energy of love always transcends self. So you can trust that any energy you are giving to deepening the relationship you have with yourself is absolutely going to be of service to every single person in your life and our planet on the whole. It is, in my experience, the only possibility with love. It is
Exactly.
all giving all the time. So don't let these ideas or these stories or this societal conditioning around selfishness prevent you from really taking a deep dive into your relationship with yourself. It's going to serve everyone and everything.
Absolutely. That's so well said. So well said, Scott. So I just want to read one last thing
Please, I love when you read from my
that
book.
that I opened up to, you know. So everybody, enough as you are. This book, I teach some of my friends to just, when I give a book, I said, just open it up. Don't read it from beginning to end. Just open it up. This is that book. This is that book. I'm talking to my girlfriends that I just was. This is that book. You open it up, and there's exactly what you need to hear.
That's my hope.
I had like 15 of them this morning, but so this is the last thing I want to read.
Okay.
I am becoming more relaxed with who I am and more gentle with myself when I'm not able to relax with who I am. I am committed to this gentleness. With it, I remind myself I am human. And even when I disappoint myself or others, I am worthy and I am loved.
Mhm.
Scott, thank you for this. You know, you guys, I gave this book as gifts at Christmas. That's how passionate I am about just being able to open up the book and get inspired. And I have chills. I have chills just shooting down me. Wow. Woo. So,
Thank you.
Scott, thank you so much for being the love in the world and radiating it around the planet. Thank you for this book. Thank you for the gift of you being you. And everybody, check out what else Scott does, because he does workshops and things. And it's at his website, Scott, SCOTT, Stabile, STABILE.com. And
Yes.
you can order the book there, right through there if you want.
Sure. Or
Yeah,
through wherever. Yeah.
through wherever. All
Thank you
right,
so
my
much, Susan.
thank you for being who you are. I am in deep appreciation.
It's
Yeah.
mutual. Thank you.
So I'm just going to end with, and so it is. Namaste.
Namaste.